Here. John. I'm here. Tom. Here. Sal.
Here.
Mike Reese.
Here.
Mike Sampson. Here. Sadie.
Here.
And Karen.
Here.
First, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as Mike sent them out.
So moved.
All right. I'll second that. And do we have any discussion, changes, alterations? No? All right. Oh,
Maybe it's not in the minutes, that the public hearing, is that at 6 o'clock? Because usually it's at 7:30, I think. It's in the minutes, is it? I think I saw it, I don't know.
yeah, the issue is the public hearing's on a Wednesday and the issue is usually the planning board has a meeting.
On Thursday, the public hearing's on Thursday.
Thursday. Oh,
7:30. I don't think it's in the minutes, but the.
Yeah,
hearing
it's
is
It is.
7:30.
Very last
The
one.
last line in the minutes, yeah.
Oh, I don't think you can read it, but you actually do, right? Yes.
That's a great cat.
So,
John, no problem. We meet at 6. Planning board,
yeah,
and
right.
then this is at 7:30, so.
Well, it's,
We have our-
it's 6, but we have to change the time of the public hearing
Minutes
to
say 6,
7:30,
it should be 7:30.
which is, I believe, historically what. Not gonna-
All right.
Well, accommodate people.
Good catch.
But a whole lot of people show up. Yeah. So we need to change.
Oh,
That's
okay.
you all we can play.
All right, so get the amendment to the minutes to reflect the public hearing at 7:30.
We posted to the public.
Any other changes?
Yeah.
All right, so I guess, do you want to amend your motion?
I do.
All right, amend the motion to approve the minutes as amended. I'll second it. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, they have it. Couple of housekeeping items. Sorry.
The first is ever noticed Roger's not here, so he asked me if, I think he might be on Zoom, I'm not sure, but he asked me if we could all speak sort of slowly and maybe more politely, not talk over each other, so he could do the minutes a little easier through Zoom. Zoom's hard enough without 9 people talking. I know that from experience. Thank you.
All right. Another thing, I received a letter of resignation from Mark. He wanted to resign from the board. He's been having some health issues. And so I accepted it, which means we're one member down. At this point in time, I'm not inclined to appoint anybody who hasn't been involved in this process. So we'll just go throughout, well, it's up to the board, but I would suggest that we proceed with 8, or I guess 9. And not fill that vacancy. Does anybody feel differently on that? No? Okay, and I think he ran for a 1-year term last year. I'm not sure, so I don't think he was a 3-year term, but I don't recall. But in any event, I think it's too late to appoint somebody. Does everybody agree with that?
Would you like a motion on that?
Do we need one?
No, it's really, it's your
It's
discussion.
my discretion, right?
Yeah.
So my discretion is with support of the board, we're not gonna do anything about it. So, no, but thank you.
Okay.
All right,
I just looked at Mark, and he's 2027, so he ran for 3 years.
you did, okay, so there would be a 2-year position in addition to the 3-year positions. I guess probably need to let the town office know that.
Just out of curiosity, would that then be an appointed position by you, or would it actually be one that has to go up for?
It goes up, it should go up for the election, which means.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
Yeah, the only way it would be an appointment is if we were going to name somebody now, and it would only be till the vote anyway.
So there'll be 4 names on the ballot, 3 for the 3-year term and 1 for a 2-year term. That's how they typically do it. So, Mike, between you and me, we gotta remember to tell the town, I guess, tell you, could you make sure that that gets on the ballot? And on that, what is the filing period? We're in it right now, aren't we? For people to run for next year?
Yes, we're in it.
Yeah.
I don't remember the deadline. I'd have to go look, but I think it's,
Somewhere around the end of the month.
yeah, it's close to the end of the month.
What other terms are up?
Mine's up.
Okay.
Hey, mine is.
I will not be running again.
Karen is up.
Karen is up, right, and I'm not gonna.
No, I don't think you are. You
You gotta stick around.
So,
I'm
you
pretty
know,
sure I'm up on the 1 year guy.
Oh, okay. So, you know, if anybody out there that wants to work for budget committee, please spread the word. It
So you guys have good blood on.
is,
There's big money.
yeah, yeah.
You don't get paid.
But there's big money.
And the dates are January 22nd to the 31st.
For the petitions.
January 22nd.
At the last meeting. First off, we have the meeting scheduled for Wednesday, should we need it. We have it booked from 6 to whenever. Wednesday night, so by the end of this meeting, we'll know whether we need to meet again. And I believe, should have this in front of me, but next week. We have warrant articles on.
The 15th,
the
which is
15th,
Wednesday,
Which is Wednesday.
and Thursday's the public
Public
hearing.
hearing.
And on the public hearing side, because there is one bond article gonna be put on the ballot, we had to warn that, and we're gonna be piggybacking that on the back of public hearing as well.
Oh, it's a public hearing for the warrant for the bond?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Deliberative session is on a Saturday. right?
That's correct, the first,
Oh,
of February 1st.
February 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the 8th, I thought.
I think the 8th is the snow date, because we had to do that, so it's on the 1st, it's the same day as the school meeting, they're in the morning and we're in the afternoon.
What time is that?
I believe it's at 1 o'clock.
The high school.
Yes. Well, yeah, at the auditorium,
Auditorium.
we're going to meet there tomorrow to look at the setup.
In the last meeting, we started going through the budget and then issues were raised as to discrepancy in the amount from revenue, is that what it was?
Yes.
And you were going to look into that and let us know what the answer is, so we can decide how to proceed in this meeting. So I guess before we jump into it, I will hand it over to you unless somebody else wants to.
The issue was 146,000.
Right.
I did work on it, whether you're gonna see it or not is another question. I looked. Just as a preamble. It's an issue for the following reason, if the trustees of trust funds are giving money, it has to be tied to something, that's number one. Number two is that there has to be enough actual expense, either in a warrant article or in the general fund budget, to match up with what's in the trustees of trust funds money. And I put together 3 different columns to try to figure out what it'll look like, and I'm still coming up with $147,000 problem. That's bad news. The good news is it still works out to less than an 8% tax increase.
And just the 3 things that we discovered were on the expense side. We're on the revenue side based on the capital budget that we hadn't put on the expense side. Were 3 warrant article items, and it was 53,000 for the transfer station repairs, 40,000 for the senior center roof, and $53,000 for
And
a
I
cruiser.
counted all those, and I'm still 147 out.
You're off 147 after that, because that's what we found. 147. We found that.
Can you put that up, Monica? I don't think anything's gonna.
Because it was,
I can see it, but I won't. Then what I can do is I can send it to everybody, including Chuck. And not do it tonight, because I apologize, I don't have a printer working anywhere, I don't have a working in the office, I don't have a working. So that's a bit of a problem. Yeah, no, it's
because
good.
it was 1,000,000 something.
And I did try to match up as much as I can, and the problems, like, in the general fund budget, there's 169 for release. But in the warrant article, there's only like, or in the CIP, there's only 72,000 or something like that. So it's some of this, about 4 or 5 things that don't match up. What else is on the agenda for tonight?
Oh, just to go through the budget and vote on it.
Well, it's a significant issue. And I can't, is there a printer in this place that can take a USB and print it?
Not that I have access to.
So what you're saying is you found 147 in revenue.
Yes.
You're saying even with that, we're still 140, that doesn't
Yeah.
count.
I mean, can I go up front?
Yeah.
So I can read it at least, this is about the worst page.
We all got cell phones, we can email it to everybody, and everybody like their cell phone.
I got it on a USB, if you can email from there to everybody,
You
that
can
would work.
project it, you can text me, just put it on the computer and project it.
I think that's that.
That's
It's
what
so
it's
small.
projecting.
Can you pop that up a little bigger?
Excuse me.
Hit. Hit that box right there.
Monica, can you email that file to me, or?
Yeah, can you?
I can't, not off this one, no.
Figures, not you, it's figures that I can.
Can you copy it and give me USB?
Not off this computer, no.
Sign it again. So much for the EOC.
What is that, a TRS 80?
I'll try, I'll try to
It's
talk
not
it
on my-
through
It's not on my laptop, so.
generally, okay? And can you see that?
I can, yeah.
I mean, you two are the only two. Who really- All right, so what I did was up here, I have by department. What's been talked about, okay? So just to go through everything, at one point or another, police side is camera, tasers, and cruiser. Fire department is equipment. Highway equipment is a loader, pickup and lease. Government buildings is senior center. Whatever's going on with the tower and transfer station repair. Next one down is a transfer station site. It isn't part of this, but it could be, and it would make some sense, but it's, right now it isn't. And bridges, okay? And then down below, I've got a bunch of what if questions. In other words, how do I get it to where it needs to be? Yeah, can you go up just a little, move that up a little bit? So that's your sheet that you ordinarily would end up with. Page 21 is a $7 million number for expense. That's not including water and sewer. Okay? Everybody should be able to see that on page 21. And I think that that's close to what you have in your report that you handed out.
That's also on the summary, right?
Yep.
That reference number.
Then on page 6, there's 3,389,000, page 6 of the revenue statement. That does include water and sewer. And those are the two water and sewer amounts that are under that. So it's 3,389,000. And I took the water and sewer out, which gets it to 3,067,000. That's also similar to your summary. So your revenue is similar to what I got, and your expense is similar within a few $1,000. Okay, and it comes out with a tax rate of 884 versus 820. And the difference is 64 cents, and I think you're a little higher than that. But it comes out roughly in the same ballpark. Okay, so rule is, go back up if you could. Okay, that's good. Let's try one more. Two more. Good. So up here, you gotta have it in a budget in order for it to tie in, okay? And then it's gotta be, it doesn't have to be in accordance with CIP, but it has to be in a budget. And the budget comes either from the general fund budget or from the warrant articles. That's the only place it can come. So that should somehow match up with the trustees of trust funds over here. And with the revenue. So here's the problem. Per the CIP, for instance, under police, it's 55,704. Okay, for the police over here, per the budget, is 92,000 for the tasers, camera, and everything up here, and 53,000 here. The number we've been talking about, though, is really over here, the 108,000, but this number doesn't match up.
The reason it doesn't match up is because the tasers are leased.
Okay,
But there's a $50,000 upfront charge where you have a $50,000 grant.
so
You
these
subtract
are
that
the
off
accurate
first-
numbers, right?
Those should be, I think
Okay.
they're correct,
So over here, this is my best guesstimate of how to get to your number,
okay,
okay? So I put those two numbers in,
okay,
okay? Next one down is fire. There's a $30,000 line in fire, that's the only equipment line in all the fire departments, 30,000.
Right.
There's not a separate article that was in any of the drafts we've gotten about a separate warrant article to spend money for the fire.
and you don't have it because the way it's set up right now is we have a warrant article that's gonna fund the capital reserve fund, and the expense is coming out of there,
Okay, so the reason I don't have it is because we haven't gotten it.
correct?
Okay, so that will that may help balance off, because right now. I don't know what this number is. Right now, the only thing we know is the CIP was 18,000,
Right.
and over here, there's 30,000 in equipment,
Yes,
okay? I have no idea what that another number is gonna look like. All I can tell you is, it's not in the spreadsheets we got tonight either.
well, the fire,
You got 30,000 in the spreadsheets. There's nothing else.
that's for the regular basic equipment,
There's no other warrant article on our sheets tonight.
correct?
So
Because
all I got right now to match up against that $1 million over here.
Where there, the
is
fire
that-
truck that's in the warrant article is actually a 2-year warrant article. Because we actually won't be making the payment till 26, but we have to order it in 25.
Okay,
So it's not in the expense side of this year.
I'm trying to figure out how to get to.
Yeah, I
that.
know.
Okay, so when we get that, I'll adjust this.
But they won't change this because it's not in this year's dollars. I can read you the one. Because that's one of the issues that will not be expended in 2025 money. We just have to order the truck. Because it takes 1.5 years to get it, or 2 years to
But the
get it.
expense will be, even though it's not in the budget, the money's gotta come out of tax dollars somehow to pay for
And that is in the,
it. Or is it coming out of the
Appropriation.
capital reserve?
yes, 232.8 is going into the capital reserve. And that's probably where some of this issue is all of these, whether it's a lease or a purchase and things like that, that are coming out of the capital reserve. The only money that goes in, and it was kind of a question that the CIP asked, the money that's going into the capital reserve accounts isn't equal to what we're expending necessarily because that money's coming out. We have a couple $100,000 in the government buildings fund. We're only raising $70,000 or $80,000, but we're spending more than that. That's where some of this confusion's coming
But
from.
there will be a warrant article to spend it?
Yes,
Okay. But again, I can't, I don't have
understand.
it either side
right,
at this point, so it's a moot issue.
right.
You know, the summary still shows us getting this and the other stuff shows all the rest, but not that highway equipment, or that fire equipment.
Right.
Next one down is under highway. Okay, so. It sort of matches up, it's 250.85, except when you get down to the lease. That's the CIP says the 72,638 is coming out of. The capital reserves. That's what it says in the highway spreadsheet. You got 169 in the budget. Is that the real number?
That's the great.
That's one, they're the 4 items. What's happened is the lease has been broken into 2 leases. Only 2 pieces of equipment came in. The other 2 aren't coming in until the following year. So they couldn't do it as one continuous lease. But the expense is going to happen
Is that a new warrant article or last year's? warrant?
last year's warrant article.
All right, so you don't need to raise any money in this year's to do that.
That's correct.
So what is the 70? So is anything else other than these 2 getting funded out of the warrant articles this year?
See, I think that's technically the only expense that's coming out of there is the 250, and that's the fund. Well, that's the purchase of the loader. That's a warrant article. The pickup's the 85.
Yeah, where's the 80, what's the 85 coming out of?
That's coming out of all of this is coming out of the CIP plan. Out of the capital reserve.
Out of the
plan.
capital reserves?
Yes,
Okay, so I've overstated this,
yes.
okay?
Yeah.
So that means that's not coming.
The
out-
169 is not coming out that way.
It's
even though
not
we're
coming out of
expending it.
the, it's not coming from the trustees of trust funds either,
Correct.
okay. Then we get down to government buildings. And the CIP said 44,000 for the senior center, the budget says 48. I don't care which one,
Mhm.
but they're not consistent. I assumed it was 48. Is that
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's the
Okay.
roof.
And the next one down is the tower grants. I don't know what that is. We can do it. Somebody's gotta tell me what that is.
That's the grant for the,
Yeah, but how much? How much is in the budget? How much is not in the budget? And how much has to come out of the capital reserve?
the only thing that has to come out of capital reserve at this time is about 20,000 total.
Okay,
That is what we're expending, but it's 175, but that's coming through grants.
this is real pain in the ass because I
Yes,
can't
it
do
is.
anything with it. Okay, so that's not gonna be. It's not gonna be the 195,000, it's 20 something.
Yes,
Okay. Then we get down to the next one, which is the transfer station
repairs, yeah.
repairs. This is 53.
Right.
That's in a budget.
Yes.
So this is coming out of the transfer station account?
Government buildings reserve account,
Okay, so that is coming from the trustees of trust funds.
yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Alright. And then bridges. Like, what are you doing? You have 120,000 that was in the CIP for bridges.
The 50, we have, right now, we have 50,000 in for the two bridges that were built about 10 years ago to do upgrades that we're supposed to be doing. And I forget what the 20 is at this time.
So the 120 doesn't,
Culverts.
That's you're correct, culverts. That was $20,000 for miscellaneous culverts. So we have 120,000 coming out of the capital reserve fund for bridges.
is there anything else coming out of the capital reserve? Fund?
For,
Bridges or culverts, whatever you wanna call
no, that's the only projects planned,
Okay.
except that we gotta carry some design work, but that's a separate thing.
it. I don't anticipate we're gonna resolve this tonight. But let me now do the math,
Okay,
okay, in my head, which is really dangerous. Can you put this up just a little bit? So my nope, yeah, that one, go up a little more. Oh, right there. So my wild ass guess. This is what we've been told is coming out of the capital reserves. So my wild ass guess said, okay, well, I can come, I'm guessing, okay? To $1,066,000, which is close, and. Depending on my time of day and how I feel, I really don't care.
Mhm.
On the other hand, some ways I do. The problem with that number there is it includes that 120,
but that's coming out of the reserve account.
right? And it's including the 20. And that includes that. And it includes the 53, which is also in there. It doesn't include, it includes the 195. But that's only gonna be 25,000.
The expense, we're expending the 195, and that is how, when,
Are you expending the 195 in fiscal year 25?
not all, well, it'll be a 2-year project.
Are you doing a warrant article for 195 in this year's budget, this proposed budget?
No,
You understand what I'm getting?
yes,
We don't have any appropriation to back up the 195 coming out at this point.
Well, the
And
revenue
You got
side-
time, you can put it in next week. if
well,
you
the
want.
revenue side shows the grant that we've received. The money that we're supposed to be getting, I mean, the revenue has it, but it's not in as a,
I
those are not
didn't
warrant
see
articles.
I didn't see the grant in the revenue.
Isn't that in there? I think it is,
I didn't see it. I looked,
I haven't heard of the tower grants,
huh?
okay,
so I didn't put it in the budget.
the tower grants are not in there yet,
Okay,
On the
so
revenue
you
side.
follow what I'm getting at?
yes,
Okay. So that's a problem. The 48, 44. Okay. The 169 is for the lease,
yes,
and that is in the budget.
yes,
Are you taking all of that out of the capital reserve and putting it into the budget?
yes,
And what's it gonna be spent on?
the lease.
But you
Basically,
don't
what we
have-
did is we set up a capital reserve account that we're
Yeah.
going to be funding and then taking the money to pay these things out of it at some point.
Is there gonna be a hard expenditure in 25 for 169,000 for heavy equipment?
Yes,
And that would come out of the line that says 169,
yes,
and it's coming out of the capital reserve.
yes.
All right, these two, I don't think there's any question about. The 18, we don't know what's gonna happen yet. You're gonna tell us whenever you get to that warrant article. I'm gonna leave it alone for the sake of argument,
Mhm.
okay? Because it's also not in the paperwork we got for tonight. And then the two up above, the 53 and 55 are in there.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, that number has to come out of that number. And that means you're dropping.
Why does
1
it have to
million
come out of that number? Cause it's coming out of the reserve account,
And spent on what?
the lease.
No, the 195 is the tower.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong, I can't. I
Okay,
put
sorry.
glasses back on, sorry.
So,
I'm at the wrong line.
that way.
Yeah,
So you
okay,
got 25 being spent.
right, so the one, okay.
That ought to become whatever it is, 25, 20. I don't care what it is, okay? But right now, for the purposes of argument, that drops by 175, we'll say, for the sake of argument. Which means that drops by 175 down there. Which drops by, 175. So you're now down to 9, you're down to $885,000 coming from the trustees and trust funds.
Well,
You have
what I will
less
tell
than-
you is that. That's related to the capital fund and there are. I gotta find you the. We have. $178,000 worth of grant monies planned that are all related to. Potentially to the meeting house. Okay, and they are not shown on the revenue side, and that's the part that's missing in this, because while they're not. The revenue will equal out, we have to get that put in there, is those grant line items. To offset that. Cause you were showing the expense and we're not showing the revenue, that's why we're low.
Well, that's what, yeah, but. If it's shown in the budget, but not in a non-lapsing warrant or a multi-year warrant article. You got a problem. 'cause
That's
it'll
only,
also
that's
lapse.
only the fire one. This one, oh, well, it
The
is,
tower's gonna be done over 2 years?
yes,
Yeah, maybe 3, these things have a way of dragging.
but this is what we have for a budget right now, we have approval and we have a contractor, and this is. What we see at this moment,
Do you have 195 in that?
What we got
reserve?
right now is we got about $100,000 in the trust fund. That's been collected and already deposited. But that doesn't get, that hasn't gone through the town's books other than the trust fund.
correct,
Correct?
yes. But that's offsetting that 195.
One way of getting us a lot closer.
We're waiting a commitment of 74,000 from the state. But they won't give us all that money in 1 year. It's a progress payment thing. So we'll get half of it in the next year, 25.
Several ways of dealing with it. On the 195 itself, you could have a warrant article that says the voters vote to. Appropriate, spend the sum of 195,000 for repairs to the meeting house with X coming from grants and Y coming from the capital reserves. That gives you a multi-year. Warrant article that would cover you over on the expense side over there.
Okay, we can,
But I'm just playing out the options, okay?
Right.
The other option is to reduce it to 100 grand, which is what you got, and do it that way.
I would rather the whole thing, because it's the only way we're gonna know what we're actually putting
Okay.
in there.
So here's the only problem with it. I think either one of those solutions works, and there's another solution too, but this is probably the cleanest, just do the whole 195. So that stays there. But the expense side goes up, because I don't have that. I don't think I do.
You have the 178. right
I
there.
have the 178 listed,
Right,
but I don't believe it's in the budget. We talked about it. That came out of my handwritten notes of the meeting, was we talked at that point that was gonna be, okay, 178,000 was gonna come from all the grants that were anticipated. And that meant that the balance had to come out of somewhere. So I calculated that with a computer, and I have that from my personal notes.
okay,
I don't think I know there is nothing under government buildings or under capital down at the bottom. There's nothing that says 190, whatever it's 195,000. So I still end up in the same boat. Yes, and the numbers all work, but it means you got less available to offset the rest of the budget. How much? About 150,000. In the grand scheme of things. Can you go up? It means down here on what's available for revenue, it goes down by some amount. We'll say, for the sake of argument, 50,000 or 70,000. That means the amount that has to go up in taxes, get raised by taxes goes up 50,000 or 70,000, whatever. That means that increases the need from 4,000,001 to 4,175,000. Okay, so how much does that really equal? It might equal another 10 cents. But it's not a huge amount. It's not a 15% increase. It's a small increase, and it might not go above 8%, because right now, can you get on one more? That's all it is right now, 7.78 cents increase in the tax. So that's my issue, is I could not reconcile this. And you'll see I did it a couple of ways, and that's the first way I did it. And that was based on my best guesstimate there. That's the other way that was based on the CIP. And it comes out 147 short. And the answer is, it's in the tower.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
And
And
we can correct that, and the good thing is this is all warrant articles
Yeah.
stuff that we have to correct, so. the
so
budget
all I'm
part
trying to do is
okay.
reconcile. And I even looked at like the fire chief, truck driver and buildings, but fire chief is in the general fund budget. The truck driver, one of them is on a warrant article, and the other one I think is in the general fund budget as well. So two of them are in the general fund, one's on a warrant, so that's all set. I had a bunch of other question marks, like about this one here, the 147, what happens if we add it back? Okay, so I did add it back, and that's the amount. It's close enough, okay, but if it is like it's possible, so it matches, that's all.
No, and that's where I would want it to be, so we will clean that up.
I'll send it to you first thing in the morning. I'll send it, does anybody understand any of that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll send it to everybody in the morning. Apologize, got to be a long day. Can I take it? That's all I had.
Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
So, Jeff and Carrie, I just have a revenue question. So if you look at change of use tax and how you're doing it. So you have for 25. 50,000, so. Looking around the Goose Pond area, this is predictable, where your assessor can actually calculate. I don't know whether you do that on purpose, but there are at least 3 change of use taxes that were never submitted, that would be submitted in a year, which total maybe $200,000. So I don't know whether you purposely do that or.
Well, I
Okay.
had budgeted a lot more and then the budget committee wanted it decreased to 50,000, right?
We were asked a meeting or two ago to bring that down to 50,000 because that was like the lower one, and we were gonna be guessing low. At that point on the revenue side.
Yeah, so it's just to me, it's, you can calculate this. This is not, and I'm sure there are other places around, you could actually figure out now where it would be.
Well, we can, and not to be negative in any way, we can say, we know we're going to bill some $180,000 in change of use tax. That doesn't mean we collect it either.
No, I see.
Those are the types of things that help us with, if we're off a little bit
Okay.
with these types of things, like you always want to have a little bit of cushion. We were gonna, I think our original was 90 or 100 we had in there, 90 something. And we were asked to reduce it to 50. Because we were trying to take that middle spot,
Right.
But
Yeah, 'cause
if we're in an okay place, like on the expense side of things. Having those cushions
Right.
are always a good place to be.
And consider that they might not pay the tax.
Well, we have some of those situations that go on.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
I have a general question. And I'm probably missing it somewhere. We're talking about the increase possibly being a set amount based on a median household. Where
Yes.
do we find the median?
it's something our assessor calculates, so it's in our current assessing as 223,000 is our median home. And it just changes every year, depending on what the assessments come in at.
I agree. So we have a tax rate posted out there on the website for the public to see, but we don't have that median out there. Is that not something we could, since we're going to, may well refer to it? Something that people should,
The warrant article usually say something
Understand.
like so many dollars for a $200,000 home.
yes,
It will be on the ballot.
it will be. Okay, well, that's what I'm not seeing here, is I'm basing out the median, and I can see what the state median is, but there's many different places to choose a median. There's at least 4 I just found in the last 2 minutes, all in New Hampshire. And none about Canaan.
But if we do it the way we've done it in the past year, the ballot can show
Yeah.
what it is for a $200,000 home, so some of the number you figure the range.
Yeah, we've been putting the per thousand cost at the bottom of all the warrant articles, so most people know what their house is valued at. You can figure out how much it would affect you.
Well, that's what I mean, but using a reference based on this, off of some reference point, it's nice to know what the reference is. If it's 200,000, that's fine.
If you said you were gonna list it, this is gonna be 43 cents per thousand, that's all, you're not saying $8 on a $200,000 house, that kind of thing.
Well, we would do that in the presentations and any information we put out, and that's technically something that would be in the explanation paragraph for each of the warrant articles. That's where I would put it, and I like to put that out there because it does make it simpler for the,
I was just gonna say,
for the public.
I hate to say it, but it's probably a lot of people that can't do that math in the booth. And they may vote no, because holy cow, that sounds like a lot, but you know, when it comes down to one of these warrant articles is $1.73 on a $200,000, oh, okay. And then they vote yes, but if they gotta do that, man, I'm not being critical of anybody, I'm just trying to be practical.
Well, I don't think the town's done it in the past, so if you wanted to like change
It's
it.
always been on a, I think you're right, John, it was for 200,000, for some reason they used 200,000, maybe that was close to the median years ago.
Well, the warrant articles last year always said the per thousand rate. That's
that-
what we've been doing, yeah.
But the warrant article, and that's in the warrant article, but what we can do in the explanation of each warrant article is list the specifics, because I've done that in the past where I used, when I did it in the past, I actually did like a couple of, $500,000 and a 200, and you put them in there and say, this is what it does.
I think you just do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, but I've done it.
Pick a number that maybe is a
Right.
round number. People say, oh, my house is worth twice that,
Well,
or
we,
half that.
stating the median effect is an
median.
easy thing to do, and it will explain to people what's going on.
I mean, I don't ask everybody else what they think, but
The other part too is that we're talking about only the municipal tax rate change. We're not talking about any of the other
That's correct.
rates that are gonna change
Right.
and reflect the total change
Right, 'cause-
in your bill.
We're 27% of the total bill.
Yeah, and that part of what I'm trying to get to, say this needs to be clearly understood. Because we don't know what the other rates are gonna be, correct?
That's correct.
So
Have you
based
ever-
on that, you could say, I'm only gonna go up 43 cents, and then at the end of the year, you're like, whoa, that 43 cents grew a lot. What happened? And then we blame everything on us.
No,
Because
they're
that's what we said.
blaming on us.
Well, I don't mean the budget committee, I just mean the town.
Yeah.
The town told me it's gonna be 43 cents. They lied. That's what I'm trying to get at. What reference are we using?
Well,
So
and,
it's
and
clearly
the explanation
understood.
is gonna be key, because when we went through, and there was several people that called in and said, why did my tax rate double? Because when they saw the bill from July and the bill to now, this is the 12-month bill that's split in half. We do have to be very specific on how we're gonna explaining it, because there is a lot of pieces and parts of it. So,
Nobody thinks about the other ones. They just say, okay, I voted and whoa, what happened? Somebody's doing something.
It's the school budget, we don't know.
So,
And the county.
Has anybody asked the school board or the superintendent what the tax increase is gonna look like?
I have not spoken to her recently.
I did go in and check the minutes today. And it says that the default budget, difference between the proposed budget and the default, they didn't say a tax rate, they said how much it was. It was a lot of money.
That's a surprise.
And there was a lot of commentary saying it's wonderful, we've kept them flat and low and all that, but I don't know really what that means. So, what I'm assuming, that the only thing I can get out of in terms of factual information was it's a $300,000 increase. I have not run it yet, but the way to figure out what the tax rate would actually look like. Would say, okay, it's $300,000 increase, what was it last year for the rate, how much? Add 300,000 to and see what the rate would be. They'll tell you, I don't think it'll be a hell of a lot, but I don't know that, and did not have a chance to complete that analysis today. Because that obviously makes the difference. Especially if you're a Kearsarge, but other than that, it's, it'd be nice to have some idea roughly how much it is.
Yep.
And not looking for accuracy necessarily.
But isn't the school budget voted on in March?
Yes,
Or-
they vote at the same time we do.
Yeah, but doesn't the town people vote on the budget?
Yes.
So the town people could actually turn down their budget,
It's the 5,
towns.
yeah,
But all the towns could actually vote their budget down.
they could. I would encourage people to be more educated before they voted no, to take the opportunity, like, just like I would encourage people on our budget, like, we can put out as many explanations as we want, but if people are not seeking out the information and then it doesn't.
Like if that budget is voted down, don't they, you get them to come back and have a second vote?
No, it's a, they have a
Default budget,
default budget. so
Which is
last-
basically equivalent to this year's
with
So
just
if that budget is
increases.
voted down, then the other budget.
takes over.
The school usually have some other warrant article that says, well, we can come back, and then you get this poor group of people that come back with like a fraction of the amount of voters and then pass them anyway, isn't that what they usually put on there? Not
Well,
pass this?
I think they
They
can.
can, I've seen that in the past. So it goes down and then they have a special meeting and it goes back. People stop paying attention. But who knows, so.
I just think it's important for the town to be clear, as clear as they can be. So that if someone gets off their butt and decides to go and check it out, there's a place to sit.
Well, my hope is to make sure that everybody is very aware of what will be happening in town, like whether we're using the MailChimp, our mail system, and on the newsletters, is making sure we have explanations of what these are, and for the people that don't use them, I don't know if everybody noticed, but when we had a couple of these votes, we started posting some of the information in different places in town, so that people can actually see the paper copies and get a look at it, so we want to make sure everybody gets as much information as they can.
I jumped back in time to 2015 ballot, and what we had on the ballot at that time, this was a small article. It says, passage of this article will increase the tax rate by 3 cents per thousand, or $6.01 on a home worth 200,000. So that's the way we did it 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's good.
I got another question on some of these budget lines. On the buildings. We talked about from building accounts not having any repair money. And we're told to worry about. We were gonna remove the townhouse, the town hall only line. So we could spend the money that the town office had for other buildings, but the town office, town hall only line is still there. And we are gonna have expenses at the museum, the second floor porch is gone, we don't know how many thousands of repairs there, but there's something there. John Coffey wants to get a high school group together. And they've got great plans to replace the bathhouse. Chances are, if they get that project going, you probably need some town funds, because they probably won't be able to do it 100%. I guess we ought to have a 5 to 10,000 set aside to make their project a success. So I think we're a little light on the repair costs on government.
Can you make it a motion, John?
Maybe not, well, that's a good track record last time.
Sure. Well, don't feel bad.
It's
I couldn't let you know.
Yeah, we went down the flames together.
Like,
Let's put it out, John.
If you wanna go to page 6
Yeah.
on the budget.
Yeah.
We've got, for down at the bottom, GB, museum, beach,
Repair.
repair. We've got $0. And that's really where the thing is. It's the museum and the beach, the bathhouse are in the same line.
Said 10,000 the bathhouse, what are you talking about for a second floor?
I don't know, I'd say 10,000, because we don't know how bad, only lives the rip they bought it. We don't know how expensive it was, so we're probably talking, we should have access to 1,000.
So we have no quotes or estimates or anything?
Chad hasn't been able to get he's got the contractor lined up, but the contractor hasn't been able to rip into the porch to find out what's
To
wrong.
find out where we are. The one thing that, you know, if it's extensive damage, it's gonna be a reconstruct, and therefore the money would likely come out of the government bill, I mean, what's it called? The capital reserve account for buildings, for our government buildings. It wouldn't have to necessarily come out of the operating portion. If it's just a minor repair, that's out of here. And when I say minor repair, that means we had to replace 15 boards, not the whole deck. If we have to replace the whole deck, that's now a capital
We need the
improvement.
voters to tell us who voted on the government building.
Well, actually, that's expended by the select board. That particular fund.
We have a fair amount of money in there, yes.
Yeah, it's $140-some-thousand.
You're not gonna waste that on the highway? Build a highway garage or something?
No,
Well, no,
That's-
but that's, well, John, you well know that that's in the plans, but there's no specific.
that's several years out and there's no real plan.
There you go.
So an extensive, you know, like putting $5,000 or $10,000 in these line items is very reasonable. But if you have an extensive upgrade, that's a long-term solution, that's a capital improvement thing that would come out of the government buildings fund. I mean, if you throw $5,000 in there for a basic repair, and then if it gets ridiculous, then we know.
Each, or for the whole thing?
Well,
You got the bathhouse and you got the porch.
I mean, you could put 5,000 each in there, put 10K in and you're good.
It's called Museum Beach. It's 2 buildings.
Didn't I just hear there's $140,000 fund that the select
It-
board can tap into if they need to?
That's correct.
Okay, so we've got money in there.
But they're not supposed to tap into repairs, they're supposed to tap
Minor-
into major works.
Capital improvements. Type of repair that's gonna, you know, it has a 5-year life and has all this other stuff and
Over
it's.
$10,000.
Right, and those types of things, it has to meet that criteria, but up to $10,000, it doesn't come from there.
I'd be shocked if we're talking about replacing a few boards.
Yes.
So based on what we see, what's visible right now, it has that chance of that,
Each is.
but that doesn't mean anything. Everything else we have found is then, which is why I'm not overly concerned about it, because I think we're gonna be on the other side.
I believe at the select board meeting, John said it would be just a few boards, and I said, are you putting that in the minutes, John? Would you say that? So,
But no, that's why
Be what we
Yeah.
want.
I think the $10,000 is a reasonable thing, because if it goes above that, we won't be touching that anyway. Realistically, that's just, you know,
Increase the one item that says beach repairs.
to 10,000, Yep.
From 0 to 10,000.
yes. And we will remove the sub note on the other one, because then it's just government buildings, repairs and maintenance, and we have that for inject whatever. So we're fine.
I'll second the motion.
We got a motion and a second to add $10,000 on line 430 where it says GV Museum and Beach Repairs. Any further discussion on that? I'll roll call vote it. Katie,
I'm gonna say no.
Brian,
I'm gonna go no.
Mike, Sampson,
I'm going yes.
Sal,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Tom,
No.
I'm gonna vote no, and Mike, I'll vote yes. Anybody keep track of that?
I think that's five,
Yeah,
at 5-4.
yeses.
5 yeses, 4 no's. So that line will be changed to $10,000.
Yeah. I have one thing I would like to talk about a little bit, the recreation budget. We had, last year, budget committee, we were entertaining the thought of a $5,500 contribution to Enfield, basically to fund Skoma Youth Sports League. They made Enfield is taking over some of the administrative tasks and management of the program to some extent, was the story that we were told at the select board meeting. When we got to the budget committee, Nate and I assiduously were chasing down Ed to come and visit us. We had a number of questions and things we wanted answered, he never showed up at the meeting. When it came down to vote at the, time to vote for the budget, we decided, not to fund the $6,500, but to put a $10,000 stipend in for the recreation bill. I believe that's fairly accurate. Does anybody have a different recollection of that? Okay. You know, between the change of town administrators and stuff, I believe town administrator was approached by the town manager over at Enfield and asked the question. Maybe Chet, you want to explain exactly what happened as that went on, just how that occurred?
But basically, it's like April, I think, we were approached again about the town participating, because there was expense tied to it. I think I had talked to Sal at that point and knew what some of the issues were. But then we were presented with the breakdown of all the money and what the other towns were paying, and it was a participation to do this. And I broached the subject with the select board and we approved putting in the town's portion. At the time, we had no recreation director, no function in that area, and we did want to participate. We were trying to build a partnership, so we did. The select board did approve funding $6,500 to the town of Enfield. And subsequently, this summer, we've also, I think it was in August, we started with a person who is stipend working to do some of the programs in the town again. And we're trying to expand that process.
So basically, we funded, we sent $6,500 over to Enfield for them to use on this program. Okay. So, you know, I'm obviously a supporter of youth sports and youth activities in general. It's something that, you know, I do. So I was never opposed to, you know, paying funding, that kind of a thing. My problem was, and still is, that, you know, we're not getting, I'm not getting, I can't see us getting information about exactly where the money is going and what it's being used for. The things that I have learned by, you know, running these around, information that we're being presented with, are troubling in my mind. The first thing I want is, generally speaking, that program that was running without Enfield's administrative involvement, they were running on a budget of somewhere between $20,000 and $23,000 a year. That was set up. It was basically money they received from, you know, people registering for the programs. This year coming up now, they're asking for $34,931 to run the same program. Okay, what? Where's the, where's the justification for this, right? So we're not getting, I haven't gotten any answers. I would like them before we agree to fund any more monies to this program. The thing is basically, if you look at the letter that we received recently, this year they're only asking for, and when I say year, their claim is that the program runs from the fall through the spring. And that's where our $6,500 was covered. Is that accurate? That,
Yep.
Okay. So now they're asking for only $3,700 to do the same thing for the next cycle, if you will. Which is way better, right? But it's still coming up with a number that's dramatically higher, the 34,931 versus a budget of 23. So I want to know exactly what the money's being spent on. I would like a little audit that says, okay, we took in this money and here's where it's being spent. And if we're spending $25,000 to fund their recreation director, I want to know about it. Right, and what are they doing for the 25? Right, and if the money's going to the kids program, or if it's going into the pocket of Enfield so they can offset their recreation director's expenses. So I want an audit, I want to know what's going on before we agree to pay them another dime. Okay, one of the other problems is if you look at the proposal that they've sent us, the fee charge that normally has gone on, if you're a K through 2, you paid $40 to register for a program. And $50 if you were a 3 through 6. In the proposal that we got from them, it's $50 across the board regardless of anybody, no matter what age you are. So they're increasing the fees, it appears, right? Without any supervision or approval on anybody's part other than the town of Enfield. So I have a lot of problems with what's going on with the program. It's not a lot of money, and it's not about the money, and it's not about funding for the kids. I want to know where the money's being spent.
The question I have is, how did we come up with 6,500, and what's the magnitude of our participation?
Right, according to the numbers that we got, Chet, you want to, I can address it if you want.
I mean, basically, when they had last year's budget,
Right,
and I don't remember the exact numbers at this point. They based it on typically the participants and percentages coming from each of the towns. I think there's 4 towns or 5 or in it, 5. So basically, based on our numbers, we were $6,500 of the total based for our percentage of people's participation and stuff like that.
yeah, they basically.
Offsetting
raised about
costs.
$16,000 from the towns. In addition to the funding that they would normally have raised, which was about $22,000 for fees.
Yeah.
And that's what they ran on before. So they got an additional $16,000 out of the towns. I mean, Enfield put up, they put up 8,000.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, theoretically.
Mhm.
And basically that money was, in my mind, is being used to fund their recreation director.
What occurs to me though is we're working off of another number, so our number is based on students, on.
The number of participants on the program. They've given us, statistical numbers. In other words, we had roughly 40% of the participants in the program.
I think what he said when he gave the proposal,
Yeah.
not that I agree or disagree,
Well,
was that it was all parent run. The
Yes.
Montefiore Sports League, and that it was in danger of ceasing to exist because they
Yes.
couldn't get enough volunteers. So
Absolutely.
if some of that cost is for the administrative work where it
Yes.
was being done by volunteer before,
Absolutely right.
I don't know that it is, but I'm just saying, it's
And I think-
likely.
I can't disclose sources in this context because there's a little war going on amongst the
And I'm not asking you to.
participants. But I can tell you that, the expectations are not being met from the people who are running the programs over there. And there's a little brouhaha going on amongst themselves that. Yes,
So I understand now more of the 6,500.
Yeah.
But where did the 3,500? I have again.
So we're declining population.
now they're saying that they're getting, whatever I think the
More
first
fees.
one, the first $6,500 that we put in for the first part of the program, they pulled that number out of the air. That was this is how much we think we need.
Well, I don't think they didn't have a good handle on what the costs
I
were gonna
understand,
be.
that's what I'm saying,
Right,
they
yeah.
pulled it out of the air.
Yep.
And now that they have a better handle, they're only asking for
$3,700.
$3,700.
So the fee,
One of the other, if I might finish, one of the other stats that you should get in the context is that they're claiming that they spend administratively 520 hours a year to manage this program. And that's what they're claiming. Roughly, huh?
The town.
The town of Enfield is now going to be spending 520 man hours administering the program. I'm sorry, But to register 500 kids, okay, and do a few little administrative items, you're not spending 10 hours a week on this. During registration period, maybe, you know what I mean? So all of the numbers in the letter that we got, I have questions about all of it, start to finish. So what I would like to do is I would like to say to the town of Enfield, we would love to participate in funding this program. But we need to understand exactly where the money's going. Okay, and what you are doing for the money. That's all. No big deal. And I'd like to see it on the board of directors for the town of Canaan. So that we can have an inside seat in terms of what's going on. That's all we need. Not a big deal, let's not get crazy about this, but
We left.
I'm just saying. That's all that.
Well, the Mascoma Sports League.
Yeah.
Is not town owned, correct?
Here's the funny thing is the Mascoma Sports League is a nonprofit.
So we don't need, that's not a ballot article thing. We can just say you need to put somebody on there.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's all, that's a simple.
Right.
Ask.
That's what I thought. No, and those are perfectly reasonable things, and before we would expend any more money, we would get this information.
That's all I ask.
On the year to date for 24, it says $9,000, so 6,500 that went down to.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to have that separated out, by the way. I'd like to have a line item that says.
Well, the other question
The
is,
other is,
You won't feel comfortable with paying a lump sum to Enfield on the line that says, part-time salary?
See, that's the wrong thing. You're right. I mean, you're right. It should be, we should have the recreation director.
Well, it's contracted services.
Okay, well, is that gonna work for you?
No,
No, I didn't think so.
if it had a dollar in there, it would work. But that's a whole different, that's how we put dollars in all those
Yeah,
lines.
I think we should have two line items there, one for the rec director and one for funding this program.
Well, this should be contracted services.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's put it in there.
Okay, and we can move the 6,500 into that line.
Thank you.
Do you have a feel for the odds and ends if somebody's gonna be doing this year, what the value of that is gonna be, how much are we gonna spend on?
Well, I mean, I think right now that 10 or 12, whatever it is in there, $10,000 or $12,000, I think is a reasonable number for where we are. But we're working on trying to develop a program and figure out what it's going to be. Again, we're at a place where we don't know what it's going to cost. What I do know is back in like 2018-ish was the last time we had a formal, like a rec director program type of thing, and we were spending 20 or 25,000, and COVID kind of wiped everything out. But it's like, we got to get back to having somebody at least organizing certain things and doing some things. I mean,
Well, I'd like to recommend that we put the rec director on as the board chair, the board seat.
okay,
So we tried that too.
Yeah.
So, as queasy as he is, I got about 7 years of getting taken advantage of as town administrator in Canaan. Because they were taking all the monies out of those accounts and just putting it in security fund.
Mhm.
So if you're worried, I have 7 years of experience in getting screwed.
I think,
My instincts are quick, Mike.
I think that their impression of what happened during those 7 years is vastly different.
Yeah.
I think we should just focus on what's happening right
That's
now.
Katie Joe Pike.
I have had conversations with a couple of people, so
Let's take one step at a time.
Right. I mean, right now,
Let's
we're
see if
gonna,
we could be collegial in this context and actually get a good program for the kids.
my goal is,
Everyone.
my goal is to evaluate all of these issues that we have going forward to say, what are we gonna participate in? What are we gonna fund? One thing, this was my first summer here, and there's vast holes and things that are going on and nobody keeping an eye on it. And these are things that we need to address. So we're at the infancy stage, but we need to start taking steps.
Used to do a swim program at the beach.
Actually,
Is
she
still doing that?
called and asked if she could restart it, and we had said yes, because actually the select board approved her doing that again.
It's the one from Vermont,
Yeah.
Yes,
you know she's not certified. I was okay with it, but
yeah, I know.
Live free or die.
Well, we don't want kids.
That's okay for adults.
well, she was certified.
Yeah.
Just
So I'd like to follow on. I agree with you. We need an audit.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree that we need good things for kids. I don't know what the magnitude of the kid thing is to start within our town. And what I'm not hearing too, and hopefully part of the audit is, we've got a fee rate that we're charging people. And that's supposed to cover a percentage of what the cost is. And the rest of it would be passed along to the towns, I guess.
Yes.
Well,
That
that's
would be
never,
nice to know.
that's never been the case, is that, what I'm trying to tell you is that the fee structure supported the entire program. The problem is that that required parents to do all of the administrative work. And it was too much for them to do it, so they were looking for a solution. Town of Enfield stepped up and said, we'll do the administrative work behind this book. Which I thought was great, because then the parents can focus on the program and the kids, right? All I'm saying is, I want to make sure that the money that's being expended, right, the additional dollars that are now being raised to do that, where they're going, what they are going for, that's all. I don't want the kids to get shortchanged in this transaction. That's.
I agree.
That's what you said that's around $16,000.
That's what they, the first time around. The next time, this time they're only asking for towns to contribute roughly 10.
All of the towns could combine
Combined.
for 10?
Yeah, 37 for us, 300 Dorchester, 49 for Enfield, 900 for Grafton, and 200 for Orange, and just
That's a
if you look
quarter of
at
a
the
person making
numbers,
40 grand a year
Yeah,
in the town.
Yeah, and Canyon has a total of 183 participants across the three programs. It's baseball, basketball, and soccer.
that was from last year.
Yeah, yeah, 60 basketball, 49 baseball, 74.
So now we've got something we can work.
So what's the implication for our budget line here? Where are we,
$700.
where are we put, where is it?
It's-
Are we-
It's gonna be under, it's under the recreation line. We just have to break it up. Because right now it's just, we had just left the director line item and
Right.
didn't add the line item for contracted
So,
services, so.
so we're gonna put more money into the contracted service, or you're gonna take some of the 10,000 and put that in?
Taking some of the 10,000.
Okay, just wanna know what.
Yeah, the bottom line won't change. It's just an accounting thing.
Curious about.
You're gonna leave 37 down below. That's
Yep.
what we're- So on the revenue statement, we don't have anything under to the recreation account, is that correct?
Yes.
It's not good.
The only thing we're getting from on the recreation side is the after-school program, and that's in a separate
And
fund.
that used to be a fair chunk of change, but we still getting that.
Yes,
Because that's how we funded. You're talking about 25,000, yeah, but a chunk of that came out of the school.
Right.
Can come out of tax.
well, and that's where actually, that's where this funding should come from if we were gonna participate in the Enfield program. And the 10,000 could be left just for the director, so we have the ability, depending, we don't know what it's gonna be.
That was the intent.
Right. And to me, that makes the most sense, and we were talking about that earlier. Is to make sure that because we are not expending all of the money that we're taking in from the after-school program. It is netting positive cash.
But there's anything I can do to help, obviously.
Yep.
besides
Can you
take
make a
what's over.
motion on it?
I think I would recommend leaving it where it is, and we will take any funding to participate out of the fund.
The other,
Yes,
under contract. I moved that we put $1 in the contract. Second. You have to have a line to spend out. You can take the money.
well, technically, we can create that line. It's really just a tracking mechanism. Because
Who told you?
according, a bunch of attorneys. They've taken away the $1 requirement. That's all gone now.
And Carrie Ann said that last year. but
Yeah,
then the
it's
budget
no
committee
longer,
brought it
it's
back
no
in.
longer required to carry budget lines. The budget committee is responsible for the bottom line for each department. And what we're doing in it from a tracking mechanism is to make sure you guys have good information to work from. We try to make sure we separate it out. Carrie Ann's done a great job separating a lot of different things out. And that's what we want to do is make sure we
Well, I
can
would like to
follow
see
it.
that. I would like to see it as a separate thing that we're funding this program,
That's fine.
but that's fine.
And
So we all know, we don't forget, but.
well, no, and I think that's an important part, and Sadie's here, when we have these conversations and we try to get some backup, the select board. we would then say, we're gonna take it from this other fund.
Have we received any information on what they're spending? Did we, so we.
Well, we
received
received what,
it? 'Cause I
Sal
haven't
has.
seen a request for,
Okay, I gotta forward it to you, I just haven't gotten around to that.
So my quick breakdown on that 3,700, if that's what we're gonna say, okay,
Mhm.
and we have 200 kids in the program, that's $19 each.
Right.
For administration.
Right.
That's the part we should understand, that's what.
Well, and that was,
Okay.
and that's actually the reason that the request was made to the towns to participate this way, so they wouldn't have to add that to each of participants' fees.
I get that.
So
But
that was
that's
his
kind of
purpose.
Audit, I hope that we're trying to see, to say, hey, this is what it takes to administrate this program.
Right, and that's what I'm optimistically, I'm hoping that that's where you're seeing the difference from the 6,500 to the 37, is they realize it didn't take them as much as they thought.
Or maybe there should be, yeah, I'm Mike, I don't like the commingling of funds either. I
Right.
think they should have a separate fund for this and, you
Right.
know, if the audit trail is there and we know what's going on, that's all.
I'd like to make a motion that we change the item that's 45, 20, 10, 120 to 7,700.
Okay,
And to fund contract to service account, which is $390, $3,700. The truth of the matter is,
it's,
any person looking at this wouldn't even know, I didn't know it. I
So-
didn't know we paid anything to Enfield. I thought we discussed it last year, and I thought we said no.
7,300 is, you had the right the first time.
I got 10,400 that's there now, so take.
Oh, okay, you have
37,500.
10,400. Okay, sorry, I was adding it to 10,000.
or is it your intention to not fund it? Because I don't think they'll have those answers, they'll not think so, before we go to vote. I mean, I don't think.
No, I think that
they'll
we should go ahead and fund it and eventually they're gonna have to give us. You know, I mean, I think that. You know, I mean, we should not be paying this out until at the earliest in my mind, sometime in next summer.
Mhm.
Right, I mean, so we'll have plenty of time to see if they're gonna cooperate. And what's really going on there.
Including the
The
board.
6,500 covers us theoretically according to their letter from fall through the spring programs. And then now they want 3,700 from the next fall through the next spring.
So the numbers for the motion were 6,700 under rec director part-time salary and 3,700 under contract service.
67? I thought you
Well,
said
6 and
77.
3 is 9 and 7 and 7 is 14.
Okay, so 67,
Yeah, I said the wrong number, 67,
and then, I'm sorry, how much under contracted?
37.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion on that? Sounds either way. Last item, we don't know when we paid this.
We paid it last year in May, I wanna say, May or early June.
Like you said, there's a chance for us to get clarity and then the board can decide.
Well, it's really, it's like,
It will be
Right, that's what I mean, the board.
it's like people.
I'll have confidence that they will.
We're just a committee.
People.
Any further discussion?
She's got kids.
And I know Ed, I'll talk. to
I
Ed.
know.
Mike?
Yes.
Let me yes.
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
John? Yes. Sal?
Yes,
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you all, appreciate
All
it.
you.
thank you.
You said, somebody said we have 100 and how many kids from Canaan in this? program?
183. So rounded to 200.
We have that many? We don't have that many in the
I
high
don't
school.
know how do you.
Over the
how do you
different-
know?
Well, it's K through 6.
Yeah, it's the younger kids.
And some of them
We,
participated.
Canaan has 140 kids in this program.
Well,
Over
we
the
had,
scores.
according to them, they have 183 participants. Across the three programs, but some kids will play multiple.
So divided by 3, and then that's.
It could be divided by 3, it could be,
Yeah.
you know, some other version of that, but.
So
So
somewhere
it's less
between
than
50 and
183.
75 kids.
From our town.
Yes.
That sounds more reasonable.
Yes.
Okay, that's,
It's
because so
basically,
you were saying 18,000 kids, not that, it's 3 times that. Not that that's a problem, but I'm saying that's.
Imagine
not-
what it was at 6,500.
Right, 37 divided by 50.
Imagine.
it's really the only option for sports for kids.
Of
really
course,
get
the
out.
audit is vital, so the board.
Why do we have to pay 25% of Enfield's recreation director salary? That was my. I thought we'd take the money and use it for our recreation.
One, yeah, it used to be.
All right, I'm sorry, enough. Move on.
I got a question on water. Ready for another topic?
Good, water's important.
Thank you. Yeah. It's not anything earth shattering, I just want to make sure, we've got a outstanding contract with Verizon for cyanobacteria, it's the surface
Source water protection.
Protection plan. And they're supposed to be giving us an update, it's $18,000, and I don't know whether we've paid any of it yet. It's been dragging on, it's in its second year, but we may have committed it, I don't know, is it in here somewhere? I don't see where it might be. The water line project is 0 for next year. That's a logical place where it might have been.
Is this something to the water department or?
Yeah. This is, I don't know what line it is, but I'm guessing, place for it might be the bottom of page 24. 731. The water line project. But anyway, I don't know, is the water project really done, or is it some hold on activity here? I don't know that, but if you know, for instance, then. Okay.
There's the source water protection plan, which is different than the water project, I think.
I mean, we got 0 for next year, is that correct?
Yes. That I can see, yes.
It says we've somehow committed all of the water line. Licenses.
You could put it up under 4231-10-310, which is water engineering plan.
There's nothing in that one either.
No, I'm just saying you could put it there.
But that's a 0 also.
That's
Right, but do you want to add something to that?
No, my question, did we forget something? I don't know.
Water sewer, I had no input, so all I did was level fund it. Nobody helped me rate that, so I just, same as last year, everything. This
So-
is the first time I'm
I'm
hearing
not
about
sure
it.
we should have 0 for outside services, like. We're gonna talk to John and see what the right number is. He may be still frostbitten from these projects.
So, I mean, they have the opportunity to present the department budgets already, John.
That,
So they have the opportunity to present their department budgets.
just because somebody screws up doesn't mean we should look in.
And like your point about water line project, 0 for this year, so we're assuming
Well,
that's already spent,
we spent 47,000 last year,
right? So that's done.
but we don't know.
I know, that's your
We
point.
haven't done any of the water lines in the village. That's water.
Okay.
And that's not money that's coming out of this budget. That's all SRF money. It's all of that.
Okay, cool.
Yes, but.
So there won't be any impact to taxes. That's because we're, part of the town's match is the balance of the money that was left from the first project, which was the intake. The second part of it is an SRF fund of 780,000 for the lead. And then there's the actual water project, which is almost $1.5 million.
We just decided an hour ago, to take the meeting house grant money and show it in the revenue and show it in the budget. And doesn't this kind of project get treated the same way?
Yes and no, because it's not really truly part of the budget. It's an expense line item that it's basically all in and out money. The town has, I think.
Yeah.
29% of the 780,000 was already approved by the voters.
Not going to affect the general budget.
Right. It's not going to affect the general budget and it's already approved by the voters.
Second, what does that project have to do with source water?
Well, all I know is there's an $18,000 project on the way. And I don't know whether it's been,
How much of that is grant and how much is over?
I believe it's all grant.
And it's one of those things that we have to ask to participate in and we don't spend any money. It's a crazy thing.
I'm assuming you can just do whatever you think the right plan is for grant money when it comes in.
Yeah, I mean, reality is once we have that in place, it would be an in and out. We'd have a revenue and an expense it's gonna match. You know what I mean? So it's not gonna have any bottom line effect. It's really just an accounting issue.
And in the water area, you don't run into the problem of going 10% over budget in tills.
For which one?
Well, in the general budget, if we suddenly spend 10% more than we plan to spend, we got problems. We can't do it.
Well, the reality is, that would be a choice if that were to happen. Are you talking about on the water line project?
You got a huge grant. Suddenly your income goes way up and your expenses go way up. And you exceed your budget by 10%.
No, these are separate funds. It's like an enterprise fund. It doesn't have that same effect on our budget. Doesn't apply. The 10% rule does not apply to this.
Ron, you want demo water?
Yeah.
So my problem with water and sewer is, as near as I can tell, it's a 50% rate increase for next year and 70% rate increase. So,
Well, we're hoping in the next meeting or two with the select board, we're gonna start reviewing and setting up the public hearing for that. We have not set that.
Estimates,
Yes,
it's 50% increase, I think on the sewer side, 70%.
I don't remember the percentages, but I'd have to go look.
If you compare what's budgeted for fees and what you actually got for fees. Some of your attempts to really get that, it's got about 50% or something.
Okay.
So,
We also are among the 2 or 3 lowest fees in the state.
I don't necessarily agree with it. Let's make it emphasize. So, and it really literally doesn't, because as near as I can tell, I'm not sure that we have anything we can do on the issue of fees for water and sewer, because solely the select peoples. So, is that correct?
Yes. It's a public hearing and then the select board sets the fees.
So if I personally am opposed to an economic development point of view as well from a low income housing point of view. If I'm personally opposed to a 50% or 70%, I can abuse people about that deliberative session, but it's not something we really can. do.
No.
A deliberative session
Not the public hearing.
at the public hearing.
I can do it, the deliberative too.
Well, we won't even have presented it by then. So,
I can point out in the budget,
Oh.
presenting to the voters at the deliberative session, that there's an increase of 50% and 70%, which the budget committee cannot weigh in on. But the voters of this town ought to understand that it's an increase of 50% and 70%.
Fine, free speech is good.
What for free?
It works for anybody. It's okay. Spit it out there, it's all right.
But that's my only real fear about that. I do have another fear, and I think it's been put to rest. The revenue for the ambulance service is. It doesn't match up with the expenditures. And it's not insignificant not matching up, it's north of 100,000. I've been assured by Bayern that it is highly likely that that revenue will be achieved by the private transport. I'm only saying it to put it into the minutes. Right now, the documents we're playing with are mostly underfunded on the revenue side, unless we're able to achieve more on the transport. So if you go and look at the transport in here, I don't believe that the transport says, oh, you're gonna get this much money coming in. On the, what it's called, facility, or it's in place of this. So, we just want to make note of it, that it is really contingent on getting that revenue.
well, the town only basically funds the 185,000 and the rest is done from revenue and based on. The increased transports we've been doing in 2024, the numbers are significantly up. And the EMS is doing very well, but we don't have enough history to really budget from it yet, but right now we anticipate we're gonna exceed what we need for this budget line item.
And again, I'm trusting, what he says that they'll make the money. But, and it's not good enough to say, well, we only fund 185,000. There's full faith and credit, but that organization is still under us.
That's correct.
So if they were to go out and spend $800,000 and they only get in $600,000. It's gotta come from someplace.
That's correct.
It'll come from unpaid bills and go back to the company. So it's my only concern. As I said, I'm assuming that Biden's gonna run business for a while. I'm assuming that, who knows? It's okay.
Just a general question, I don't like to ask it, but. So the taxes are determined in March. Then in June, you do estimated taxes and then federal taxes. So there are towns in New Hampshire. That actually give the whole bill in June and they split it. I'm saying, why doesn't Canaan do that, where you give your whole tax in June or July payment? And then you pay half and then you pay half.
The way the town is set up, because we're on a calendar year, the tax rate is actually set in the fall and split in two. So basically, the tax bill you got in November, you're gonna pay the second half of it in July. It's actually just off
Oh,
by
I see.
6 months because we're not on the fiscal year.
Oh, okay. So other towns must be, or.
Yeah, a lot of towns go to the fiscal year. That's where most things match, and it's actually one of the difficulties like we had this year, because the way it works when you're not on the fiscal year and the state is, and the DRA is, and everything else. When we sent out our second half tax bills in June last year, we were working on the year before's budgets. We were actually underfunded for that 6 months from what we did, because we had to wait till to get the correction. Now we'll be working at the same level. So we were actually a little behind as a result of it.
Could you change that? Like,
That is,
We would have to put it on the ballot and get it approved, and then we would have to do an 18-month budget.
yeah, it's involved, and in some ways, like operations wise, it becomes a little more expensive, but on the capital side, it kind of saves you the 6 month, but it's a pretty vast undertaking.
But the other thing, could you do, thing is, we're looking at 30 days by the time this is made. Is there a way to get it, so people have to come up with money
Mhm.
in 30 days, whereas if they knew 45 days or 60 days, it's easier. for them. And then we can bill it, so I'm wondering, can you notify people with greater time before they have to do it?
Not in the fall, because we actually have to wait for the DRA to send us the rate, official rate. And we got that at the end of October, right around just before November, so we had to get the bills out in a hurry in order to meet the statutory 30 days. And we have to collect before the end of the year, otherwise we're into the next year.
Okay, so you
That's-
just don't have the time.
In the,
You
now, and
can, you can on the May bill.
you can on the May bill. The May
It's
bill,
automatically
you should
happens.
know by looking at your bill, half of that bill is what you're gonna get in May. That's what that is. You can know for the May one, but you can't know for this one, the one we just had.
That will change that, obviously, not just based on what we do here with our budget, but whatever the school does. the state can do it.
By the way, in the school, do a quick check. I don't think it's any more than 1.5 to 2 points. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty. I understand.
We should be.
Well, the reality is, you know, if you look at, you know, this is, last year and this year have been a complete, like, kind of catch-up time. Next year, when, you know, you can predict that we know we have 116,000 we need to raise for capital. And that's about just shy of 2%. And then we have inflation. Like, hopefully this reorganization and the fact that, you know, we had to make up for the revenue this year, like there's been multiple factors over the last 2 years that had to be addressed, but now it's very predictable. Other than inflation, we can kind of predict exactly where we're gonna be this time next year. And then it becomes an issue of, are we adding a program, or are we undoing a program, or, you know, you're gonna deal more with the modifications to what we're doing, and are we going to eliminate this service or add this service? Those are the only things we should have to really in-depth address, but this has not been a straightforward process at this, you know, to this point. So we're getting close. And I think this should hopefully make next year much more boring, would be the goal.
How many miles are you gonna get out of the 1,000,008 on Pittman?
The one what?
You put the notice out for the hearing of a $1.8 million bond for paving.
Yeah.
How many miles does that take?
It's paving infrastructure, and it's paving and drainage and some gravels, and that is. Do you guys have any miles? 2.3, it's about 4.5 miles. It's River Road, Switch Road, and the Upper Goose Pond.
$100,000 a mile.
That's-
450?
Well, first of all, it's 2.2 million. 400,000 is in the budget already to go towards it.
I was just talking about the bond vote for me and
Right.
the other point was in the budget.
Yeah.
So the million is on top of the 4.
Yes.
So I was trying to get to how many miles, and therefore figure out how much a mile. For the bond vote only.
Yeah, it was, because we got the price today for the paving, the estimate was 1.349. For
How many miles?
the paving for. I don't remember, I'm guessing at the miles, it's Upper Goose Pond, which is like 2 miles. River Road's only 0.6, I think. And I think it's close to 2 miles for. I got it here.
Yeah, Switch Road's at least 2 miles, I bet.
Yeah,
That's longer than Goose
Well,
Pond.
you got that on your spreadsheet. with the-
yeah, I'm going to get it, I just realized that, because I don't pay attention.
Is your intent to go out to bid on that?
That is the intent. Although this year, when we used R&D this past year, nobody even got close. I mean, not even close. That was surprising. So we have,
We're gonna vote on warrant articles next week.
yes,
So could we know how
This-
many miles you plan to do with the
Good thought.
warrant?
Yeah.
Okay.
well, we're doing, and at the same meeting, you're having the public hearing for the budget committee, we're doing the bond public hearing, so we will have all that conversation. River Road is 0.7. Switch Road is 2.5. And Goose Pond. It's about 2.6 or 7. Because it's only the upper half,
About 6 miles.
yeah.
It's just
The biggest issue right now is I put that number in, I just, while I was sitting here, got the email from the engineer about a couple of the drainage structures and they're way more.
That's the problem, is the drain.
The drain, well, that, he's estimating for the 4 class 1, no, 5 class 1, 2 crossings, it's gonna be about 250,000 each, and there's 5 of them. And we had only estimated like 700,000, and so we're,
Just a situation where the culverts are just too small.
it's where they're too small, but it also, the biggest issue is because of their proximity to the lake, and in addition, they meet streams qualifications, then it has a whole separate set of rules that you have to meet as far as open bottoms is and everything else, so they just get very expensive very quickly.
There is a certification program through the municipal association for culvert installation.
We're getting it.
Scott used to have that certification, and we're gonna try to train somebody.
Right now, I think we're looking at March for the subject, and we're gonna do it. That is only for the regular ones. They cannot cover the 5. The 5 have to be permitted. We can avoid the permits for all the rest of them. There's somewhere close to 45 of them besides that. We can do those in-house. But the 5, we can't. We have to permit and do out. And that does not include the one at Gould Road. That one's gonna be close to $1 million if we rebuild it.
That's
Um,
Hinkson Brook.
Hinkson Brook, yeah. That one would be close to $1 million, but in my conversations with Scott, and we've been going through this. We're pretty sure we can just fix the invert and not have to do a complete reconstruct, so that's what we're planning on right now. If we have to go to a complete reconstruct, this becomes a $3.5 million.
And the
Issue.
5 structures that have to go through permitting, what was the cost of the permitting?
300,000 for all the design and permitting. So I'm at $1.5 million over my $1.3 million right now, so I'm at 2.8, so I'm off I gotta go up about 600,000. And that was all on the drainage side. I was actually within 41,000 of the road work. So it just, those were kind of a shock.
It'll get better.
Well, it'll get better when it's done.
But
But you know, basically what I need to do right now, and we can have this conversation. But I'm going to be going through and working that into the budget and saying, well, if we actually went to 2.8, we bonded 2.4, what would that do to our numbers over the next 5 years? And I gotta take a look at that.
You get all of those numbers.
No, I just, like I said, I got it while we were sitting here. I can do that.
I was attempting humor, but you know,
Well, you know, it's not pleasant.
roads are huge.
The drainage is where the killer is, its proximity, so.
Skin.
Yeah, and it's not gonna get better. I mean, climate's gonna continue to intrude with all the rest.
Well, you know, it's just an issue of between the regulations and the age of this infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, we are where we are. I mean,
Yes.
when you consider it. You know, one of the things Canaan is extremely fortunate with is we got 3 major bridges that total close to $11 million and we're getting all but $200,000 of it for free. You know, so we are getting caught up, and if we can get through this first step. And then continue on the plan that we have every year or two, we're gonna be doing another portion of road within 5 years. It'll be dramatically improved. You know, and I think that's the goal, within 5 years that we're properly funded. And that we've done our catch up and we're at a place now where. We can keep managing ourselves to go on an annual basis. That's really the goal. And to level the tax rate, because these appropriations, once we get there, again, only adjusted by inflation. We now have a predictability because we can carry money over and not have to have the big spikes. You know, that's part of this plan.
Thing I asked way back when we were talking about roads to figure out the magnitude of the issue, because each individual thinks my road's Canaan. And there's 83 miles of roads. That's what I was gonna say. There's this road and that road, and there's 83 of them, 83 miles. And you know, if you go down the highway, a federal highway, you see, this costs $1.1 million per mile, or whatever the heck the number might be, never gets better. And if we're paying 300,000, say, oh, that's good, but we get 83 miles of. It's
Well,
one of those transparencies that have the regular taxpayer understand the magnitude of what we're voting about. It's not just my damn road that's screwed up. It's
Well, when
John's and Sally's and whoever's next year.
Well, that's the thing to keep in mind is when you look at our total, just our paving lines, I think we're. And we will be refining this in the spring, but you know, your total valuation of roads is like $8 million just to replace paving for everything in town. And you gotta do that every 15 to 20 years. So it's a really simple kind of a math problem. You know, and that's kind of the goal, is to keep those things going.
This is the kind of thing to keep, it's a foot stomp, the people who are dealing with it understand it.
Mhm.
But those that are just going to work, coming back, going to sleep and going to work, don't understand that, and don't remember about it until they go like, oh God, it's March, I'm not going through 43 of these things. Or ouch, you know, it's A, B, alternate, whatever the answer is, but it's one of those things, if you at least say. Canaan is this many miles. And that many miles of roads, and this is part of what we have to do to keep all of the community working.
But based on what you just said, we're almost leveling down. We've done roughly 4 or 5 miles over the last couple of years. Just off the top of my head. We got 6 miles here, so that's 11 miles. We still got another 12, 13 miles to go. So we would have to do another 2 bond votes of $1.8 million. In order to get caught up.
What I will say is, when we look at the only reason for this catch up is because they're so far gone, like Goose Pond Road and Switch Road. Cause right now, in 2026, we have Goose Pond Road, not Goose Pond, Blackwater planned. We have in 26, it's Grist Mill, because that aligns with when the bridge is supposed to go in. So while we're still making the bond payment within that 400,000, we can still continue to do roads and not have to bond again. And after 10 years, you should never have to bond again if you keep the funding level correct. This is a one-time deal.
75.
Well, you know, we're,
There's a saving grace.
so, but the goal is, you know, we're gonna leave a plan in place and a situation where it's manageable, and I think that's the goal. That's really my hope.
So does anybody else have any, additions, subtractions, or any departments, line items, or anything else that they want to bring up? Because I think we've gone through the budget. I know you're gonna make some adjustments. We have to vote on the bottom line of the budget. And it seems to me like we probably do need to meet on Wednesday for the updated paperwork. And even if all we do is look at it, discuss and vote, I think, does that sound right?
Well, I will, depending on how you look at it, if you look at it as the operations budget, which you have the sheet here, there's only been one change on this. Okay, and that was the addition of $10,000 to the government buildings total. Everything else hasn't been questioned. It's all been tied to the warrant articles.
Okay.
So you do have the option to start going, because that's the only line item. Is the one, and we're adding the 10,000 to it, so the motion could be we're plus $10,000.
I didn't see in the minutes where we ever did anything about the contingency fund. But it's my recollection is it's tied to figuring out where we are in the tax.
Well, what we did is when we moved the $90,000 into there for proceeds from the sale, we left the $50,000 in the contingency fund because that was the goal. If we weren't going to go over the 9%, we wanted to try and keep that there.
And the tax rate you're looking at right now is 8.93 instead of 8.20.
We didn't get that tonight.
My tax rate was less than that.
Yeah, it was it's less than 893, 861, it was 880 or something, yeah, 875, something like that, 875 or 880.
Less is better, fun.
I had a problem with the sale of property only to the extent that it's a capital assets being sold, money other people put to capital assets, not operating costs. But frankly, if it goes to contingency, it's okay. It's, at least we're not underwriting the operating costs of the enterprise. But likewise, if you needed it for the equipment, then that would be okay, because it's one, it's a one-off all place. So I don't really have any problem with it, but I don't think that's gonna change. I think you're gonna be within 7 or 8%. I already publicly said I'm okay with 7 or 8%.
But your recommendation is that we can vote on this now by adding that $10,000 in and changing the bottom line numbers. Actually.
And when we come next week, when we'll send it ahead and with the warrant articles, we can give you whatever accounting we have for
You
that.
can still make a change.
Yeah, we can make a change on the warrant articles at any time. This,
I'm okay with that.
because this part really isn't in question. It's just the warrant article side.
What do you want to do, Nate?
Well, so that would mean the bottom line, if you go to page 26, would be $8,329,683.64 based on that addition, that would be fine.
What page are you on?
Last page of the worksheet that Karen passed out, today's date on it.
Is it 8.329?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's 10,000. The budget worksheet, part of detail. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to get to the numbers. So, okay, so this includes all of the enterprise funds and everything. So, okay.
The general fund budget
Right.
too.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because that was why you confused me, because that was that number. Like, wow, that's a big one.
Well, yeah, but you still have. What's the deadline of petitions? Is it tonight or next one?
Tuesday, it's tomorrow, right?
What's that?
Deadline for petitions,
Yes,
it's tomorrow.
no, where's it the 14th?
Second Tuesday of the month,
Next month.
next Tuesday.
It's
right?
next Tuesday.
Yeah, that's why we're not doing it.
That's why we made it the 15th, in case something showed up.
What I'm trying to make is, we haven't even seen all the warrant articles. The warrant articles are in it up above. If we could somehow. If you go to page,
We never see them until we vote on them.
I understand. And I am sort of understanding this, but
What is
my
it?
concern is this, if we're gonna lock in the expense side, I don't wanna lock in the expense side, that also includes warrant articles we haven't seen yet. Because it's wasted time, it's not gonna be accurate till we get them,
But
so
this,
if we,
You asked us to
you
do
go.
that for 10 years. And
Sorry?
You asked us to do that for 10 years on the
I
budget
did.
committee because you had control
No,
over it. So
I
now you don't
told
have the
you-
control. It's
I'm
different.
sorry, but I don't agree with you. So if you
Well,
would
is
have
that
known,
what happened?
Sadie, if you wanna argue with me, I can do it.
I'm just saying, like, you're sitting there saying,
He had a
I'm
different
okay
role.
with this. There's 9 of us here. We all have to be
He had
okay
a
with
different
it.
role.
the one thing,
Yeah,
All right, if I could explain what I think we should have done is on page 20. Okay? Above where it says capital outlay, machinery, vehicles and equipment. That's all operating expense for the general fund.
it's the, your subtotal on your
It's 388.
summary sheet.
But no, it's more than that. It doesn't say what it is.
This one, I have it here at 6,241,200.
Okay, that's what I was working on
Yes.
up there. So that's fine. If you want to get a lock in on that.
I'm saying let's lock, no, you can only lock to there because we haven't looked at the warrant
So
articles
that
and
would
that's the
be-
next
that
piece.
should be 6,251.
6,251 now.
But we got-
So that's the only part I'm saying, we could be done with this top piece and then we deal with the warrant articles.
Then we don't need to come up against.
No, we eliminate that piece and now we're just dealing with warrant articles.
Flat.
As much as I'd love to come down.
6,251,051 51 is because we added the 10. 200.46 is what it is right now.
I'll move we accept that number.
Discussion is, I'm concerned with the percent. I don't care about any of this other stuff, and the taxpayers really are interested in how much their taxes are going up. And how do we know what that is? The percent number, because you're guessing at. a
No, it's-
percentage. Is, you must know.
We have the number right there.
Right,
What
if
is
we
it?
approve this budget, you should.
Eight
tell us
po-
the
eight-
percent.
It says 8.8% as it sits right now today.
But once we see the warrant articles, we can then vote to change the number we just agreed to.
That's
Correct. But the remember, the 8.8% includes warrant articles. So that's if everything got approved, 100% on the ballot, it's 8.8%.
No, I think it's actually less. But it won't be less than like 7.8, but it'll
Yeah,
be somewhere
yeah.
there.
So just get an idea.
So it's in that range, including the warrant articles. So I just want to make sure that's where we are. And this year, the operating budget goes up a slightly higher percentage than the warrant articles because a bunch of the warrant articles from last year are now in the operating budget. You know, so it's just a
Make the
shift.
last point, and every year that I ever did it, there were 2 warrant articles, 2 and 3.
Mhm.
2 was for water, it was for water and sewer, and 3 was for the general fund, or vice versa. So I had you vote 2 and 3, I never combined the 2 together, because that's not how it works in the drawing,
And the water sewer is a separate warrant article.
several one.
So-
Because I have them all drafted. I have 2 or 3 I'm still working on, but the draft will be done probably tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest.
You send that out when it's done, so we can have it. in the-
Yep.
So we put forth the budget, we put forth our number for the operating budget, we make recommendations on warrant articles that affect, that have, money components to it. That's what we do.
Yep.
So,
So we could be done with just the top section tonight and do the warrant articles the next time, and then you're there.
I just want to, Tom, to your point, according to Carrie Ann's summary sheet, if you look at the bottom number, 72 cents is the increase, you know? So 72 cents on a $200,000 house is $144 increase on an average taxpayer, let's say. So they're sitting in the booth and they're going, now Mike is saying it's lower than that, but just for round numbers, somebody's gonna look at that and say, all right, my taxes are gonna go up $144 this year based on this budget. That's another way of looking, on a $200,000 house.
I mean, if you take the 72 cents divided into 720, it'll come out to a percentage.
Right, so,
Five, so.
and typically that kind of information has been available prior to voting.
Because technically, none of this is final till after the deliberative session.
Right.
You know, we've put together, I think, a good plan, and now it's just if we're finding little tweaks and adjustments.
we have a motion on the floor in a second. Any further discussion on that? Sadie,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Yes.
Mike, yes, Sal, John,
Yes.
Karen, Tom,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
I was gonna put my Ellie hat on.
I was
I was gonna put my Ellie.
Frankly, I said it the last week, I'll say it again this week, I think it's a good faith effort you guys.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your work.
I'll look to adjourn.
We will not be meeting on Wednesday, so we'll see everybody
On the 15th, and the 16th is public hearing day.
Yeah, there's a lot of war articles, aren't there?
Right now I'm sitting at 39.
Yeah.
They aren't all budget.
No, I would say half of them are just language. And some of them, like, that might have money, it's like, well, we had to delete the police one. Recreate the police one, fund the police one, buy a vehicle. So there's,
What time?
The deliberative session will be here next Thursday, the 16th,
Right.
at 7:30 p.m.
Budget.
The budget committee meeting on Wednesday, the 15th, will be at 6 p.m.
Okay, so I need to change the article.
So we increased.
Yeah, public hearing, not.
Oh,
deliberative
well,
session.
what did I say?
She said
Oh,
deliberative.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's-
No, I can't
See, although if it's like past public hearing.
One
it might
for
be
two
two
people,
people.
15.
we're only using,
More recent public.
Right.
the rest of that's gonna go.
They won't approve it, they'd be
No,
the
Not in my time.
I don't know.
When I was down here and.
We've got people already asking, the voters have to post out. And so that's one of the.
I was just looking at the assessed value, so the tax.
There's lots of
I
people that
expect
show
the-
up.
Right.
I was we're gonna send this to you when I was first.
I left it, that's, because I had about
But it was,
we used the tax board.
Lester was on the board
We have.
and Dave Barney was on.
I sold something, so that's good.
Did you adjourn?
Yeah, me too.
I moved to adjourn. Yeah. I second.
We're hoping to have some healing that you're.
And we are typically go around that. We had about.
Oh, yeah, there's a motion to adjourn on the table, Carl, on the floor. I'll second that.
Okay.
What's that?
All those in favor?
To close
Aye.
my eye.
Opposed?
Oh, did we adjourn?
Yeah.